Welcome, everybody, to Generation Dan, the only show where I need those reports on my desk by 5, but also you need to have a meeting with this boss, but also I need these different reports on my desk by 5. Are you sensing a pattern? I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I'm Dean the Genetic Marvel, and I am the king of this could have been an email. That's just, there's no reason for us to interact. And our guest is returning, Chana Carroll. How are you, Chana?
Hi, send me a text message, please. That's
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. How have you been?
I mean, like, I think the one win from all this technology and everything has been the transition of everyone just sending text messages. We don't have to actually physically talk. It is nice. It is entertaining to watch boomers use voice recognition and it spells everything weird or uses weird words. And then you're just looking at them going, I don't understand why that's interesting. I mean, I didn't mean to say interesting. I don't know what's wrong with my voice to type.
Well,
and I'm like, learn to type.
I have a bit of a marble mouth, so my voice to text thing never comes out the way I want it to.
I agree. But I'm one of those people that's like, text me, but if you're gonna make me text you a whole book, like, call me. I can't keep doing this.
Or if you're an essay texter, paragraphs, please. Like,
if you're an essay texter, just stop. Just stop. Yeah. Be a better person. Nobody wants
that. Multitasking is the way to go.
Oh, when it's like one sentence.
Oh my God. Yeah. Have you seen, there was a meme that was on Reddit where it was a girl is like, hey boss, I need to talk to you. I'm pregnant. And then no other extra things. And he's like, okay, so listen, we can talk about that, but I'm going to need you to explain to my girlfriend why you're telling me this as your boss and that you're not telling me this in any other way. And she's like, yeah. So I was talking with him. He's like, yeah, you need to send that part first.
Start with that.
Instead of my girlfriend looking at the phone going, hey, I'm pregnant, and being, what? You're going, I mean,
yeah. So for people who are trying to figure out what's going on, this week's episode, we are talking about the dumbest things that have come down from on high, either as a student, the assignments you've had to do, as a worker, the conflicting instructions you get from bosses, or stupid shit like that. With
what's up, Marco? How you doing?
And
Carol Mary, really? Come on. Well, this is going to be a challenging wank. Hey, listen, I believe in you. That's fine.
I'm pretty sure it's 2 against 1. You have beautiful woman troll. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. I honestly, I'm in love with the transition that there's been more of the dealing with crazy bosses type of content, because some of the stuff where people are like, I remember one where it was a guy was like, hey, we need you to come do this thing. And she's like, you fired me, so no. And it's like, come on, be a team player. I'm not on your team, bro. Leave me alone. This is harassment. And they're like, well, we thought you'd be professional. It's like, you fired me and replaced me with someone cheaper, and they can't do my job. That's your problem now. Yeah. And then the best part is they're like, listen, what if we, what could we pay you? And she's like, $100 an hour plus a $10,000 sign-on bonus.
Love that.
And they're like, that's ridiculous. And he's like, just like, yeah, well, sucks to be you. Good luck. Enjoy.
Skill issue.
It's like, really, you fired me and you expect me to work? Oh, welcome to America. I'm sorry.
It's not, well, I only heard about this much in the last few years, where there's people are like, oh, I'm in a 2-year non-paid internship in Manhattan. You're like, I'm sorry, I have multiple issues with that. You're like, an internship is 3 months, then go back to school. Or you're 2 years. You're like, 2 years of not getting paid in the most expensive city in the country. Yeah. You can get fucked with that just immediately.
Didn't I tell you that our biggest commodity here is exploitation. Did I tell you? I mean, that's what we do here.
So well, it's exceptionally well. What's up?
When I was in college, I did an internship with the Producers Guild, and most of my time outside of like getting coffee for people was me asking, "What do you do?"
Yeah,
like for movies and TV, like what do producers do? And they're like, "We pay for stuff."
They pay for, yeah.
Because
I had an internship.
If you see a movie or a TV show like from the producers of, it doesn't mean anything. It means from the guy who paid for this thing. It has nothing to do with the quality. Just keep that in mind.
I have an entire set about understanding how movie ratings work. And essentially, cool. So, and it's like, because essentially you never want to watch anything under a 5. But if something is dramatic, you have to -2 because they'll make it like, it's the Titanic, it's a 9. You're like, it's barely a 7. Let's calm down. Right. But then you have like a scary movie where they're like, ooh, we got 4.5. You're like, it's scary. So you have to add like a 1.5 because scary movies always get knocked down. Right. But the worst, like you said, is anytime the description starts with from critically acclaimed producer, you're like, yeah, that movie's going to suck.
Doesn't mean anything. Okay? It doesn't mean the movie's bad necessarily, but like it doesn't say anything to its quality.
But it does.
Yeah. It just means it was expensive. That's all.
Also true. And when it says the real life name of the actors instead of the characters, you're like 100% this is going to suck. You're like, this is not.
What do you mean?
So in other words, starring Oscar nominated XYZ character and Oscar winning so and so, and you're like, yeah, this is going to be dog shit. It's absolutely. This is why you have to understand. You're like, as soon as they start promoting who's in it as opposed to what the story is about, it's going to suck. Don't get me wrong. I watch Samuel L. Jackson movies just to watch Samuel L. Jackson be Samuel L. Jackson. It's fantastic, right?
That's true.
He plays Samuel L. Jackson the best, and it's an entertaining character. So, the problem is you have Jason Momoa who plays Jason Momoa in every film, but then you're like, Jason Momoa is just pretty. I hope he goes bald.
Jason Momoa is not for you. Jason Momoa is for me. It's for us. It's like we finally get something. I like Jason Momoa, and like I discussed with somebody, he's real cute until he opens his mouth, and it's like,
yeah. You're like, no talking this one, buddy.
No talkie. Don't talkie.
Listen, you'll get paid for talking role with grunting, but then we don't need syllables. Just
or Bob Odenkirk, same thing. He's the same guy and everything, which is not bad. He's very good at being Bob Odenkirk.
Oh, I thought you meant he was for us, and I was like, wait, what?
Bob Odenkirk is for the children, much like the Wu-Tang Clan.
Listen, Wu-Tang is forever.
When he's like the dad in Little Women, and they're like, "Dad's home from the war." I'm like, "That's Mr. Show. That's not." No.
I mean, listen. Well, this is the thing: is women could have been happy when they had Mr. Bean, but they're like, "No, we need a character that looks good." And you're like, "Well, now you get The Rock and Jason Momoa for everything." That's basically.
The Rock looks like a thumb. I love him. He looks like a thumb.
Yes. He does. Like a very, very athletic
thumb.
Rock. Yeah. It's basically you just have to put two.
He looks like the thumb people from Spy Kids, or is that someone
100% accurate. Please teaching me to live stream. You just have to click live and go, buddy. That's all you got to do. Yeah. Say my name. Exet bonus. That's a weird name. Why would you ask me to say that? Just Deadpool. Listen, Deadpool. I watched Deadpool, and I like the last Deadpool especially. Was that I'm like, yeah, I'm just watching this because this is just the comic books that I grew up in. And I'm like, I don't want to see violence. Here you go. That's perfect. And
you want to see Ryan Reynolds, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Listen.
Very good at being Ryan Reynolds and stuff.
I have the original comic book that had Deadpool. Okay. The first one, it was New Mutants. It's an awesome comic book story. And the fact was, the more and more they talked about Deadpool, you're like, this is Ryan Reynolds. This is Ryan Reynolds to a T. There's no question. And then you're like, he played them exactly like Ryan Reynolds. Hilariously, have you heard this? That in real life, apparently he's not very funny, which I'm like, that's not surprising. I mean, I could see him being a pain in the ass because he's been very successful. And, like realistically, all he has to do is act like a certain character. That may not necessarily be him. Like, listen, I'm socializing with people on the internet. I hate people. They're the worst. So like, it's all basically everything's a lie.
He's dry. He's very dry. So I could see how like in real life, you would be like, I'm going to strangle this kid.
Definitely. Have you guys seen the videos of him interacting with Betty White on the
No.
It was on the set of I think it's called The Proposal, where him and Sandra Bullock, he's her assistant, but he's actually like his family are like the Kennedys of Alaska, so they have like tons of money and stuff. Like it's just a weird thing. And the whole time Betty White is like off camera, Betty White keeps on treating him like he's an intern, and he's like, "Go get me a coffee." He's like, "No, I'm your co-star." She's like, "When Betty White asks you to get a coffee, you go get my motherfucking coffee." And you're like, "I love it. This is fantastic."
Let's go. God bless Betty White.
Oh, I mean, watching her and other stuff, you're like, "Oh, that woman was top of the line entertainer." Like, there's no, I
loved her. She was like, there's an episode of SNL from like over a decade ago at this point where she was the host, and they do a MacGruber sketch with her, and she's like his grandma. So funny.
I mean, like that's the thing is, I understand that sometimes you need the selling feature of a great actor. That's fair. I understand that. But if your show sucks anyway, nobody's gonna watch it. You're like, it's only a matter of time. Like, what was that one? Megalopolis that came out, which had like 70 different actors that are well regarded. And you're like, yeah, it was the most dog shit movie of dog shit movies. And you're like, yeah, it was all shiny and gold, and everyone's like,
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, because it sucked. You know? I've been going into this for a while. Like, nobody has to advertise things that are good. Like, there's no advertisement or commercial for the cheap Chinese buffet in your town.
No,
like, but everybody goes there.
Sure.
You're like, because it's great. And you're like, you don't have to, like, the best pizza in town doesn't have a commercial. You have all the shitty ones that are like, we'll give you 7 pizzas for the price of 1. You're like, yeah, those have to have commercials because they're like, it's a deal, You know
what's funny is in LA there is no like 7 pizzas. It's like 7 pizzas for like $300. That's We came to LA for Atlas's wedding, and Victoria's like, I need to take you to this pizza place. And we went, and the pizza was magnificent. However, it was also like $900 for, just to breathe in the pizza air. I was like, I can't. It's a little much, I'm a bit of a pizza snob, so LA pizza is rough for me. And the fact that like one pizza is like $30, I'm like, first of all, this tastes like trash. Right. I could make the frozen pizza at home and it's better, and this is $30.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then like also even like my thing is too that I'm being a man that qualifies for 2 people in one. I'm basically like a 2-man Voltron.
He's a double-wide trailer of a person. Yes.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's an accurate.
You would not fit in Japan, and I didn't fit in Japan.
No.
Hey, you're very big in Japan. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge in Japan. That is fair. Apparently, we're also popular in Afghanistan. Hey, what's up, Shafi? I hope you're enjoying life in Afghanistan, bro.
So, like,
yeah.
The reason I wanted to do this episode was this last week at PD, which is short for professional development. Every school has to do it, and it's like a staff meeting every week. And sometimes they'll give you department time, or like you meet with the other teachers for like, I meet with the other English teachers and so on. But most of the time it's fluff where it's like, Raker, what's your why? Pedagogy, like just buzzword laden stupid shit.
We're talking about synergy. You're like, just
synergy.
Shut up.
Synergy has actually been used before. But this last
from
time,
Jen? No, I'm kidding.
Right.
This last time we went in there, this was verbatim what they wanted us to do. Sit with your department. Sit with the SPED teacher you want to work with the most, but also we want arts integration. Those 3 things don't work together. I can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah. Listen.
So that's where this episode came from, where I was like, what do you want me to do? Because I tried the first thing, and then they're like, well, wait, don't sit with the SPED teacher. I'm like, I physically cannot be in 2 places at once.
You got to start packing. Listen, you're married now. You can just let it go. You can pack on the weight, and you can be in 2 places at one time. It's very, very easy.
2 places at once.
Solutions. He's got solutions.
I tell my wife this. I am a solution-based entity. And I'm like, don't come to me with shit. because I will solve it, and I will ruin your day because I'll think of some crazy backwards way of thinking at things, and it. Trust me, if anything, people are like, hey, yeah, include Dino, he'll ruin your time. And they're like, oh, but this is so much fun. And I'm like, what are we paying? Uno? Everyone's getting dead. That's fine. Let's,
I'm gonna stack the cards, right? Where
yeah,
you do
well,
like reverse, but also draw 4, but also this.
We went to a friend's house because they were like, hey, we're using our hot tub at nighttime because we're old people now. So it's like, hey, do you want to come over? Because it's cold. And it was the greatest time. Afterward, I'm like, my knees don't hurt. My lower back feels great. It's the greatest thing. But
a hot tub in cold weather. Wow.
I mean, it felt so much fun.
But then you have to get out in the cold weather. I'm sorry, but I can't.
It's worth it. Like,
this is when the fat comes into play. I have like it's like the cold has stayed out because of the hot water, and once I get out of the water, I'm not gonna like that cold isn't gonna touch a nerve ending for a while. So I have minutes before. It's kind of like, you know, when you are playing a video game and like you fall into lava, but your health just slowly goes down. It's the same process, right? So it's like, if I can last like a solid minute and a half, and then I have to go, ooh, it's a little nipply, you know, and then go inside.
Or Chana, when you get in and out and they put the napkin over the burger, so it takes longer for the heat to dissipate, like that, but in reverse.
I see.
I mean, yeah.
I see.
Because like, wouldn't it be cool if instead of getting fat, it started making another you, like the vestigial twin, and then if you got fat enough, it just became a second you.
I mean, I was there.
Do they pay bills? Because like,
do they have to eat, and can I sign them up for slave labor? Like, it's a fair, you know, who stays as the primary is my question. Because I made a joke about this because I'm like,
conflicting directions at work or school, or just like stupid stuff they make you do.
Yeah, they're like, hey, listen, you not only have to do your job, but you also have to smile. You're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
No,
I'm paid to do a job. I'm not paid to smile.
2 or more pieces of flair, right? That's from Office Space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, listen, that idea, like I worked in a restaurant that had that kind of shit, and they're like, hey, do you want some pins and stuff? And I'm like, no. They're like, but it'll look cool. And I'm like, I'm a grown ass man. I'm not doing that. I was like 19 at the time, so wasn't a grown ass man, but you know,
I'm a barely grown ass man.
I was still bigger than them, and I'm like, just stop trying to pin stuff on me. I'm not a donkey. Look, just leave me alone. You know.
I've worked in a lot of restaurants. I managed restaurants. I've done craziness. One restaurant I worked in did have sort of flair. It was like if you got so many points for doing good things, you have to use those points to cash them out to get flair for your outfit.
Yeah. Or you could pay me a living wage. I feel like that, you know, like I would love to have a second me. I am the boss and he can go to work and give me. I mean, see, but then you still have to pay for 2 people eating, you know, like
that's the problem.
That's the downside, right?
It's not osmosis is water purification. You're talking about mitosis. And listen, I had a joke like that. I'm like, I used to be 2 fat people. Now I'm 1 fat people. That's the process of mitosis. I cut myself in half. He got the hair. I got the good looks. It's fair. It's a fair.
No, but if your second person, are they smaller than you? So they're not going to eat as much.
Interesting. So in our little scenario, if you got fat enough, your twin that came off of you is like an inch or 2 shorter or something, or like, and it has
like Russian doll style. I like it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be cool if you like just kept going and going and going. And you're like, all right, this little dude is going to live in the cabinet. He can feed in the pantry, but his job is just to text me and be like, hey, you're running low on, you know, soda or whatever. Oh
yeah, to have like a pantry
elf.
Pantry coordinator. That's what we're gonna call him, because that sounds like a fancy job.
Elf. Look, because if it's smaller than me, now we're bordering on
little person.
Yeah, that's what we're
tiny.
bordering. Yeah, because I'm a half. I found this out. I'm a half an inch too tall to be considered a little person.
Racist.
Wow.
So if I have I know, right? So if I have
start slouching, it'll be fine. You just start slouching a little bit, and they're like, yeah, basically it's fine.
Always say like,
wait,
if
how
you
tall
had
are you,
how tall am I?
Yeah.
4'10" and a half.
Okay, so the good thing is you don't need a booster seat. 4'9" is the
She does though. 4'10" and a half. You are not a big person. Like you're the one. If there's, hey, we can only get through the window, Chana. She goes up.
But then that also means that I always have to ride in the middle seat, everywhere growing up. It means that people like to pick me up. It means that people like to try to rest their hand here, like it's like I'm a foot rest for people, just like
okay,
I mean, an elbow is better than a foot.
Doing like a Captain Morgan, like
I mean, a little bit, yeah.
But that half an inch makes it so that I'm not.
At 410, you get a handicap pass too.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I. So if I shrink,
just the parking savings alone,
worth You're gonna live longer than Dino and I. Like aside from the fact that we're both like chunky dudes, short people live longer. So
ticking time. Yeah, we're like Great Danes of people. You're just like, you got a good 14 years, and then after that, it's done. Somebody brought up to me, they were like, how many people over the age of 65 do you meet that are over 200 pounds? And I'm like, not many. How many people over 80 that are over 200 pounds? And you're like, they don't exist. He's like, yeah, so
even my dad, who like was 6'1", although he shrunk it his old age, so now he's like 5'10", about like he's very thin. Ditto my mom. They're both in their 70s. Now you can probably chalk some of that up to the Parkinson's in my dad's case, but when you stop moving, you stop moving.
It's very true. We're discussing things that aren't our jobs and just how that has worked out. Also, got the ADHD wants to explain to us that rights are disappearing tomorrow. Sure, you make it sound as if people in the United States had rights. They didn't even have right to good health care. Forget about anything else.
Spell the word losing correctly.
Which is hilarious. It's more so they're loosening the rights, which
but can I tell you that's prime American, like that's spot on. That talks about our education.
Yep.
That's accurate.
It's perfection. American perfection.
It's that, that's the best part where they stole our jobs. You're like, number one, they didn't steal your job there. They're here. If they're here to steal a job, let's hope it's a doctor's job because you need more of those. So it's fine, it's this is why I always try and look at people and like I've tried to embrace the idea that you can attribute it whatever people do for malicious intent or incompetence, and it is a lot easier to just assume people are incompetent, and you feel less anger because my murder face tells me that people just assume I'm angry all the time, so I have to pretend and smile and be like, oh hi, how are you, and so they don't assume I'm there to kill.
That's the thing. I believe they call that Hanlon's razor. Don't attribute to malice what can better be explained by stupidity.
Oh, is it got a fancy name now?
Look at
you young people and your fancy names, calling everything.
Where were you educated?
It's older than you. What?
I said, where were you educated?
Foreign schools. That's where you went to.
Oh, see, that makes sense.
Yeah.
By the way, you were saying intent, and you were like incomp intent. That's what it is now. Incompetent.
Kind of. It really is.
If Generation Dan had a like alternate title, it would probably be called Dunning-Kruger, the show.
Bro, listen. After all is said and done, like that's the other thing is that people are mispronouncing words purposefully, and I find that just absolutely enraging. And I'm trying to figure out why it's enraging, but it's like okay, Atlas, instead of saying biopic, likes to call them biopics, and I'm like, that's not the word.
I hear that a lot, though.
I know, and it's one of those things where you're like, absolutely not. Just don't do that.
Or like mischievous instead of mischievous.
Listen, you guys saw the one where the guy couldn't say Schweppes, so he called it Shue Pipis, and I'm like, number one, that's hilarious, but number two, that's not even close. Like you weren't even trying.
You look all stupid then. Yeah, exactly. That's all of it.
I'm dead.
Who doesn't, Jan? We all look. The whole point is embracing the stupid. Live by the stupid. You'll have a happier life. It's one of those things. Aaron,
what was the crazy assignment you got as a kid where you're like, I have no idea what my teacher wants from me?
can we include things that were told to me in gym class?
Oh yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
You have to run really fast, but you want to get under this time. I'm like, listen, we have a lot of issues with this. I'm fat, so running not an option. Timing even worse. Can I just sit here and watch people? Is that anyway, sorry, go on.
No, that was funny.
Teachers don't like me, so it's a weird thing. I always wind up getting attacked, like verbally, by teachers for not doing anything. Like no, I mean like I'm doing the things and like being correct, and then they always wind up like taking their frustration out on me in some way. So it's a weird thing. It's this.
You do look a little too innocent. That's fair. You know, you look.
Is that what it is?
Well, and this is the thing is because you're also looking up at everyone, right? It's one of those things where people have this like, for me, I've had to walk home. Like when I used to take the bus to and from work, it would stop close to my home, and then I have to walk the rest of the way. But if anyone else got off the bus, I would have to like put my hands up into the sky. I'm like, I'm just walking home. I swear to God, I'm not following you. I'm just. If you'd like, I can cross the street, or you can stop and I can go ahead of you. Whatever's comfortable, but I am just trying to get home. And a couple times people are like, it'd be nice if you could cross the street and walk ahead. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I understand. It's just, I don't want you to. And then they would see me another time. They're like, so you do live in this area? And I'm like, yes, I do. I'm not following you. I swear to God, I'm just trying to go to work. And it's one of those things, right? But
you have the opposite issue that I have. Like when I'm mad, people laugh. And I'm like, I'm not being funny at this point. I'm legitimately angry, and they're like, "You're so cute."
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the arguments for why some people shouldn't get guns too, though, right? Because like I've seen more little people get angry, and they'll be like, "I wish I had a gun because I would shoot you immediately," and you're like, or maybe have a Snickers. Let's calm down and just
No, we're just gonna bite you in the ankle.
Commercials.
In the ankle, you bite in the ankle, or you hit a knee because it's close.
If you have a step stool handy, but yeah, no, it's fine. It's just, no, but this is so someone was telling me they're like, oh, like when I go into a house, like I'm always like, you have to be aware of your surroundings. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever walked into anyone's house ever and been like, ooh, I should be worried. And I'm like, oh no, nothing's gonna happen to me. I'm not, and that's the thing is like, I don't feel like worried about like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go down that dark alley. And I'm like, I'm the scariest thing in the dark alley. That's fine.
Yeah, you don't. I was like, but you never walked in anybody's house that was a little sus. Like,
I'm usually more sus. Honestly, I walk in and they're like, I'm trapped. And I'm like, I fill up a doorway really well. Like you're not like you're stuck
more
here now.
Sus. I'm less sus. I mean, but that means I can go under the radar though, which is
I'm a good distraction for that same purpose, right? People just assume that I'm up to no good, and I'm like, I'm just having a burger. I'm not doing anything. And they're like, but you would do something.
Really
like,
good in a D&D campaign together.
I mean, it's not.
If you were like the literal characters.
Interestingly enough, I mean that's only fair. Can you imagine? So yesterday I actually went to a D&D like intro to D&D course because I've never played it, but at the same time, a lot of the people that I'm willing to spend my personal time with like D&D. So I'm like, I should learn more about this and try and, at the same time, you guys are all pagans and you're all going to, God doesn't love you, but it's fine. It's fine. We're learning new things together. What's up, Outlaw 500?
What?
2 Myers. My wife is pregnant. Congratulations. That's awesome.
That's funny. That's how we started this whole thing.
I mean, basically, that's how that works. Well, so what?
Do as I say, not as I do.
I mean, listen,
parents. Yeah,
so we just watched a movie. It was called Back in Action. It was Cameron Diaz, who's a smoke show still, and Jamie Foxx, also kudos, still a smoke show as well.
Is this recent? Or
like today I watched it. Yeah, it just came out.
No, I mean like the movie is recent.
I believe so, yeah. So it's them, they're ex-CIA agents that have been kind of quasi on the run because they started a family instead. And then they have to like bring out their old skills. Very entertaining, lots of fighting, and Jamie Foxx alluding to like the double entendres consistently. And then, you have Cameron Diaz who's like, I'm a liberated woman, punching guys in the throat. And I'm like, I'm all for it. It's great. But at the same time, they have kids and the kids are like, oh my God, my parents are such losers. And you're like, man, so it's just a natural thing that everyone's like, oh, my parents are losers. You're like, your parents could be the coolest people in the world. But then you're just like,
Yeah, but also that young, the whatever that one is generation, they're soft. So
so soft. I've
had
people
kind of reminds me of is like Mr. and Mrs. Smith a little bit.
So it was what Mr. and Mrs. Smith could be, and it was very enjoyable because everyone came out like happy and not with cheating on their wives and stuff. So better than Mr. and Mrs. Smith because
or that show The Americans where it's like, oh, they were Russian spies, their kids were born here, and they don't really know the that's what their parents were doing, right?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine finding out that your parents were spies? I feel okay. Here's the thing: is Shannon's like, my parents aren't spies. I am sure of it. They're definitely spies. It's fair. I feel like there's another layer to the question of like, when have you been asked to do something really stupid where you're like, I just don't understand what you're asking me to do, kind of thing. But also, was there a time when somebody asked you to do something, you did it, and then only afterward did you realize you're like, that is not my job. I should not, like, I just did somebody else's work and that person's a dickhead. And like, I've had that situation and I like will immediately call people out and be like, yeah, that's not why are you trying to assign me work? That's not your job. Why don't you go do your own work and they're like, well, you're being rude. And I'm like, no, you're being abusive. Just absolutely not. And then that's people are like,
a couple of times where like, I've been asked by admin at my school, like, hey, can you volunteer? I'm like, I have 2 nights a week of a thing I gotta do for my credential. So until that happens, I'm not doing extracurricular anything. Sorry. I will occasionally cover another teacher's class during my conference period because that means getting paid, but like that's money at least. Versus like, you should run a club. And I was like, you should shut up. I can't right now. Sorry.
So, but you guys have okay. I'm going to tell you about it. You guys have normal situations. Like that's, you know what I mean? I worked at different restaurants. Okay. And I'm going to tell you that there was this one restaurant that I worked at. Now I was like like an assistant manager at this restaurant. It was a small restaurant and they had at the time a roach problem. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I am deathly afraid of roaches. Just we're gonna put this out there.
Well, that's a one-on-one. That's a one-on-one battle. I get it. Yeah, you're fighting them face to face. So
yeah. So they decided they were closed on Sundays. So they decided that on Saturday night they were going to exterminate and like bomb the place. Okay. And I open because I was Monday morning, and let me tell you. There were dead roach bodies everywhere. Dead bodies on the counters, half dead bodies, trying to survive the apocalypse that just happened. Roaches on the floor, like it was fear factor for me. I went in, roach bodies everywhere. Okay. And you're afraid
describing
of
this like you're a soldier in World War I, where it's like
it was like shrapnel was flying past my head. Yes, when I stormed that beach. Anywho, so I go in there, and I'm like, Jesus, I can't. I and I couldn't do anything like at all. I was frozen. The other girl comes in, and she's like, "What do we do?" I ran to the bathroom because. The thing is you know what fear does to your body? Anywho, so I come back and I'm like, well, we can't open because I cannot do this. Now, this particular restaurant had cameras.
Yeah.
And the people that owned the restaurant, so the owners and I was like an assistant manager because the owners owned the restaurant and were the management, would watch you from home.
Mm-hmm.
Gross.
At some point, they called. And said, why aren't you opening? And I said,
And
madam,
then-
there are dead roach bot. I was like, have you seen this war? I'm
Yeah.
not part of the war cleanup.
Yeah. I'm here to put
quiet,
the flag in. I'm not here to clean up.
much.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I did, me and this girl cleaned up, sort of,
For real.
Whoa.
all of the aftermath of the bombing of that restaurant.
Nope. I'll be honest with you. In my mind, the idea of you walking in there and seeing the roaches was the scene from Ace Ventura 2 when he walks into the guy's salon and all the heads of animals are on the wall and he's like, "Ah!" Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's fine. It's fine. Just everything's fine. Like that's
Correct.
basically it, right? Yeah. I mean,
It was bad. It
Yeah.
was so bad. And you know what's crazy is I didn't quit. That's my fault.
See, that's the thing is, under no circumstances should you have cleaned that up. Like that is, they bomb it, that's fine. Another company comes in with suits and cleans everything, and then we return to work. That's the job.
Yeah.
You're like, so the idea they tried to be like, oh no, you just clean it. Be like, oh no, that's not.
Like
Not
you
true.
haven't. The poor little hat. I mean, I don't like them, but it's like two legs, like trying to pull his body, across the counter. I'm like, I can't. Why am I here?
I mean,
It's like the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, where the guy like picks up his own arm. And then,
I mean,
like,
bro, it's
disgusting
one of
that you
those.
Still opened it. I mean, she didn't want to. As
Yeah.
like
Sometimes you have no choice.
Yeah. Sometimes that was the job, and that's the job that I had, and I make bad decisions.
I think we all do at some point.
I don't know
Like
if it's necessarily a bad decision so much as like I gotta pay my rent, dude. I don't get paid enough to have a moral quandary about this, right?
See, this is the thing though, is like I'm a firm believer in that, like you set boundaries like quick and without caution. You're like, no, absolutely not. Like I've had people who were frustrated with the situation, and I think I told you the story, Atlas, before, was that so I worked at a bank and I was an associate, and the advisor was like, hey, can you call this person and tell them that they're not approved? And I'm like, oh, you mean the shittiest possible phone call? You want me to do that? He's like, yeah, I do. So, okay, sounds good. Tom, I need to talk to so-and-so. Talk to you. Yes. Okay. So listen, I just want to talk to you. I was given the information by the advisor, but they want to let you know that we're not going to be able to proceed with the deal. It's dead. And he starts freaking out. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to come down there and I'm going to tell you a thing or two about how to do your job. I said, all right, that's no problem. You're welcome to come here. You're going to have to ask for me at the counter because my office is in the basement. So you just come over. And when you're here, we'll have a conversation. No problem. And sure enough, somebody comes running down like 5 minutes later. And like, because my office was where there was like at the end of a staircase. So I could hear when somebody came, it was like, and it sounded like somebody just fell down the stairs. And they're like, hey man, there's a guy freaking out upstairs and wants to talk to you. I'm like, no problem. I'm like, I've been waiting for him. I'll take care of it. And so, because I'm in the basement, I don't have to have my tie tightened and my jacket on and everything. I'm like, no problem. So I pull on my jacket, straighten my tie, put on my vest. I'm like, I'm wearing a 3-piece suit with French cuffs here. I'm dressed to the nines. So I walk upstairs and this guy does not come to my nipple. I'm like, hi, I'm Dino. And he's like, so I needed some clarification on what we discussed. I'm like, I would be happy to discuss everything with you and try and find a plan. Join me in this office. And we walk in and everyone was just watching this happen. They're like, how did you do that? I'm like, oh, I'm a 300-pound land monster. Nobody's going to yell at me. That's not how that works.
For people who are like, that doesn't really make any sense. The video of me, sorry, audio listeners, like you come in and Dino's like, hi, I'm Dino.
Yeah.
That's what
kind of. Yeah, that's accurate.
No.
Just Dino. Yeah.
You know what's crazy is that I have had people your size step to me as like, because I've been in manager places.
Yeah.
And like they have, and I when they like step to me and like, well, they're not getting in my face. I'm more like getting into their chest. But I'm always like, do you feel manly right now? Do you feel? Does that make you feel good? I don't.
I've had multiple times where like someone will be yelling. I remember one guy was yelling at a hostess, and this actually, you know what, this hostess was smoking hot. And then like I was talking with her, but I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm 19 years old. And then someone's like, yo, she's 14. And I'm like, it was nice talking to you. I gotta go. She's like, it's okay. And I'm like, it's not okay. It's against the law. So we're not talking anymore because that's fucking going. I'm going to jail. I'm not doing that, you know. But some guy started yelling at her. I walk up behind her. I'm like, everything okay? And he was like, everything, yeah, everything's fine. It's fine. It's fine. No problem. I'm like, good. I'm really appreciate you being kind to my host. It's very important that she has a good day. You know, she has to go to school tomorrow and everything. And they're like, yeah, school's hard. I'm like, you know, because it's not as important as this. This is just fun time. So let's maybe take it down a notch. He's like, yeah, we could do that. And I'm like, bro, I look like I'll bash your head in. Like, it's not like I look like a prop. Like, I walk into places and people are like, oh man, I just replaced that stuff. And I'm like, I'm not here to break anything. I don't understand.
You don't look like you'll bash your brains in. You look like you'll just crush someone's head like a grape. Just
like, yeah.
Very slow, very methodical.
So basically, like anywhere that I go, I need to bring you with me.
Just to stand behind you like a shoulder.
I love it.
Listen, have you? Okay, hold on, Chana. You must have watched. What is it? What does the movie I'm thinking of? Beyond Thunderdome. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I'm like, listen, I've offered to every short person I've ever met that's under 5 foot. I'm like, yo, you could be master, I could be blaster. I'll put you on my shoulders. We'll walk around all Halloween long, and you're just barking orders at fucking people. It's great.
But can I tell you, I wouldn't want it to just be Halloween. See, I would
like just in the everyday. You know,
I need that for my everyday life. But the one thing is about people like me who are little. Like I could technically get away with saying some crazy off the cuff shit, and nobody's gonna be like, "What'd you say?"
Also true. I have, you know what though?
You're not an immediate threat. Is that the idea? Like,
well, I got the luxury of I said something, and someone's like, "What the hell did you say?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't stutter. You heard me." And just looked them dead in the eye, and they were like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Yeah." It felt so good. Like, also at the same time, I feel bad for that person because they're never gonna recover. Like, their self-esteem is gone after that because you're like, "Yeah, I didn't stutter. It's not."
My in-laws have this cat that is so chill. You can put him on your shoulder like Pikachu. Walk around with him. Shout out to Ozzy. I think when I've recorded at my in-laws' place before, he's like been on camera.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "Oh, you're doing something? I want to be where the people are," and then just comes and sits on your keyboard.
Which, yeah.
See, that's where I would like to be. Yeah. Right up on your shoulder.
Yeah.
Okay. Just doing the things.
Barking orders. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. I would like a giant to be on their shoulder. Like, I would be on top of a giant's shoulders and be like, yeah, just going on. Dude, how do you find
actually, I'm seeing a lot of comments. If you happen to be enjoying it, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to either Generation Dan or Dino's channel, which this is both streaming from.
The biggest suit I have, absolutely, Joey. The biggest suit I have is size 64. Is the biggest suit I have, and now I just bought a suit and it's size 50, which means I've dropped that much. Yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of crazy because like I'm still bigger than most people. Like, so I don't know.
In spirit,
you're like in spirit. Yeah, you're like. Your spirit animal is way bigger than other people's. Yeah, that's fine.
My vice principal is your height, and like her shadow stands tall. Like she can snap me in a second.
Don't cross little people. I'm telling you.
No. They team up and become Voltron, and they're like, haha, now I'm bigger. You know,
haven't you ever seen Willy Wonka? You know that gang that's in there, the Oompa Loompas. They're a gang.
They're a gang.
They team up. They kill kids. You know what I'm saying?
Well, listen, everyone knows that there were less and less seats available on each ride, which means Willy Wonka knew exactly how many kids were going to die, which, like, let's be honest.
He was like going like, stop, don't, wait.
I love, and like, Augustus Gloop, you're like, man, that fat little bastard going up the tube, you're like, that's the funniest shit I've ever heard. You know, like,
Here and
You're like, oh, Augustus, don't eat the chocolate. You're like, this is the great. That's like the fat kid in Simpsons. Like, oh, don't make me run. I'm full of chocolate. And you're like, that's the funniest shit
I
you
think
can
he's
ever
probably
see.
based off of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
And
So,
the Oompa Loompa stood there and went,
oh no,
we
We
tried.
gotta catch him. We gotta catch him
They
before
don't get paid
the
enough to
incinerator.
care. Yeah.
So yeah,
get
StreamYard
paid
does go vertical. You just have to go into the its settings, general, and then you can change it from landscape to vertical
Portrait.
or portrait, and then you can stream that way. Yeah,
It's easier
thanks,
to put
Pokemon Trail.
TikTok, which I don't know if it's still going to be around.
Oh yeah,
People are watching this, or Instagram, or whatever the thing is, right? YouTube short.
listen, all I know is the one frustration I have is if TikTok goes, I took all the time to learn how to use it, and now I got to learn to use something else because I max out at like 3. I got YouTube, I have Instagram, I have Facebook, but that's mostly just for senior citizens.
Yeah, same.
And then then I had TikTok, and I was like, this is a little much.
The TikToks are back. Did you not know?
So I asked Cole, one of my other co-hosts, and I was like, hey, do you have it back? He's like, not yet. It's been down since 10 p.m. yesterday. And he's monetized on YouTube, so he does all sorts of shit. Yeah. So yeah.
Well,
So
the political theater has brought I opened it the political theater last night took it away, and then the political theater this morning brought it back. So yeah.
I feel like it's gone from theater to absolute circus, which, like, don't get me wrong, I'm loving it, but like as an outsider, not to be involved. That's not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very what I don't understand is the hilarious reaction where they're like, we're going to download Red Note. And you're like, that's much worse that's a whole slew of other problems.
It seems like, you don't want Chinese people taking our data? Watch me. And
they're like, hey, no one's stealing data. It's just being given up. We're like, here, just take it.
But you see, free. You can't trust the communists or the carnies is where we're at here.
That's right.
So your circus folks know.
Yeah. Well, it was
a pretty interesting protest, because then they were like, all right, we'll wait a little bit. It seemed to work, at least for a time. I thought it was interesting.
I mean, like, the whole idea of the disconnect. I loved watching the interviews where the guy's like, does TikTok link up to my Wi-Fi at home? And you're like, well, if your phone links to your Wi-Fi, then yes, it would. And it's like, what does it take from there? The signal to the internet? And you're like, bro, this guy is out of control.
Absolute gerontocracy.
No, that's American education system at its peak there. Peak.
Yeah. It's like,
well, just like the fact that we're run by old people, that's the ultimate example of the theme of this episode, which is, what the fuck are you asking them?
Bro, even like
made him sound like he was, I'm a simple country lawyer, and I need to know if this TikTok.
Back in my day, the TikTok didn't attack your Wi-Fi. Yeah. It stayed in the barnyard where TikTok belongs. And you're like, what are you on about, right? The best part is they were asking the same questions to Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg like busted out that weird drinking of the hand. Like,
double like this.
Yeah, the two-handed, and then like also looked like a robot. It was like sweating from like only one spot on his forehead. You're like, I don't know, that's not how it's programmed. Because Mark Zuckerberg now,
doesn't quite look silly when I do it, because I guess my hands are little, but when you do it, it looks crazy.
Well, yeah, because I have meat hooks for hands.
Yeah.
Like
when during my my little trip to Oregon this summer, there's an episode about it. Go check it out. It's around, I think, July or early August, where I talk about a certain trip I took with a friend that Dino knows about. I forgot how to drink water, and that was like what I had to do to like make it not splatter all over myself, because that particular trip prevents you from like it like unplugs the things for habits. That includes how to drink a glass of water.
Yes. It like also walking, trying to figure out if you like how to poop, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it gets weird. This is sorry. In the summertime, Atlas took mushrooms for the first time, and I had been singing. Okay. I had been singing the praises of mushrooms because I'm like, you can't do mushrooms like I'm going to do it like 4 days in a row. You're like, no, your brain will die. Nothing will work. Everything dies, right? So I'm like, you could do mushrooms, and then you can do mushrooms again like after a month or a few weeks, and then you can, because it's a see, when you're young, it's about, who knows. As an old person, you're like, I'm trying to fix my inner baby is what I'm trying to do. Some weird shit like that. But it's very fun. But also,
if your brain is a sledding hill and the things that you do and the habits that you form are sleds going down a hill and those grooves get deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
That is like a fresh coat of snow, and it kind of
just combing the snow. Yeah, it's like, because like I learned, like, in my pursuit of becoming healthier and losing weight and everything like that, I learned that I am the last problem I have. I am definitely a problem in my own life, and I am definitely in the way multiple times, which is not only a fat joke but also emotional, so it's fine. But that's why mushrooms, I'm like, yeah, well, maybe I'm going to try and fix me too. So who knows? But
I was going to say, my body forgot how to pee one time, but that was because I had my appendix out, and apparently my appendix regulated me peeing. So that's once it was gone.
You just had to you're just stuck there, and what do you do? Just drink a bunch of juice, or
no? Okay, so I was at the hospital, and I couldn't. I went to go pee, and I sat there, and I went, and my body was like, huh? And nothing would happen. And I was like, wait, I know how to do this, right? And you overthink it. I'm like, I can pee.
Yeah,
I got the yips for peeing.
It's yeah. Yips are real, man. Yips are real.
And then they were like, okay, the nurses or whatever, we're like, okay, we have an idea. We're gonna have you drink a gallon of cranberry juice, and that should make you pee.
That'll make your neighbors pee. Forget about you. It did. Still didn't.
No, because the mechanics were broken. So So I drank this massive amount of cranberry juice, and still, I felt like I had. I had to pee, but it wouldn't work. So they were like, "Oh, okay, it hurts, and you got to pee, and you're not here. How about a catheter?"
Oh no!
But I'll say this: I was freaking out, and they gave me this much morphine because I was freaking out, and I was like, "Cool." And then when they gave me the catheter, I was like, "Are you sure you put it in the right hole?" Because I don't.
Your catheter this time brought to you by a 14-year-old having sex for the first time, and
that's horrible. I love this. I am Jeremiah. What is this? That's a great question.
We have the check stubs from separate accounts. It's almost $1,000 paid in different amounts.
What the fuck, bro? This is the weird thing, and Chana,
Generation Game drinking game. Atlas makes a musical reference. Take a drink. You'll be.
You have to take 2. That's fair. I did this joke on last weekend. I'm gonna do it again tonight. But it was like, I'm at a point in life where I think everything is gonna kill me, but not in a we're all dying perpetually type way, but more like a black person on a 70s sitcom. Every little thing might be the big one, and then it's not. Maybe this one is everything.
Coming, Elizabeth.
Exactly. You're like I stubbed my toe, and you're like, this is what's gonna kill me. It's a blood clot. I'm gonna die in 4 minutes. You're like, no. 6 minutes later, I'm like, I didn't die. So I was walking through a doorway, and my wife held the door, which I'm like, I don't like her holding doors for me. I don't like anybody holding doors for me because I'm a man and I'm stupid. And yeah, exactly. And I just go, I hold my own door, And I cranked my knuckle on the door, and it was a steel door. And then I looked down, and it started to bruise immediately. And I was like, oh my God, I'm bruising like an old person. No. And that was the last thing. And then it was red for a day, and then it disappeared. And it hurt for a couple days, but it was fine. I was like, all right, that's good. And then I went and got a blood test, and they're like, don't lift any weights for 24 hours. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Big deal. And the girl who did it, she was some sort of sorceress, possibly a witch. I don't know. But she just looked at me. She flicked she put the rubber band on around your arm. Then she just flicked it, and she's like, no problem. Boom. And punctured me literally like she was some sort of professional. which doesn't happen. It doesn't happen for me. I usually get the asshole who puts it in and then goes, oh, I'm looking for it. And you're like, I will stab you. I will stab you, sir, with this needle after it comes out of my arm.
Or even worse, when like they're putting the IV in for the first time, they're like, all right, this is our intern. And I'm like, no, the fuck it's not.
You're like, not today. Right? They can learn on a dummy.
Today, house of God.
Yeah. So I wait 24 hours to lift weights because I'm like, this lady did such a great job. I lift the weights and now half of my bicep is covered in a bruise. And I'm like, see, I am an old person, basically. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know. Well, here's the thing. You're not going to die because at least you can go to the hospital and get health care.
She's got a point.
Listen, hey, that was so. Have you guys heard that people on Red Note have been asking Chinese people for jokes about Americans? And the best one I've seen so far is, why do you guys eat as if your healthcare was free? And you're like, oh my God. That
one's like at least 10 years old.
I did see though that we have cinnamon toast crunch bacon.
Yeah. Now I don't know that that's a move in the right direction. I mean, what is this, pad thai? I gotta do savory and sweet, and let's calm down. Let's just, it's bacon. It's already like, why are we trying to make something that's already delicious more delicious? You're like, that's not. It's fine. It's already delicious. We're good.
It's putting a hat on a hat.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like bad on bad because we love heart disease.
I mean, if anything, it's like should be an Olympic event that you guys win, right? Like it's just like who died fastest. You're like, I have an 18-year-old has had 6 pie passes. You're like, that's gonna go. Can I be a moderator? Saying no, Serge is our moderator, and Serge is fantastic. Just an FYI. That's fine. No, it's good.
Wait, Serge is our moderator? I didn't even know that.
Well, he's my moderator.
Oh, he got promoted. That's cool.
I mean, I know he's moderator on all my channels, and then I think he's moderator on Gen as well.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like that's the thing is, I've had people complain to me, and they're like, I heard healthcare sucks in Canada. And I'm like, it does if you live out in the boonies, right? Like I grew up in a suburb. There was one hospital, and it was dog shit. Now there's a second hospital. It's bigger, but it's still dog shit, so it's fine. But now I live in Toronto, I live in like the equivalent of like the edge of Manhattan is where I live, like when it comes to city wise, right? So I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm 20 minutes away from like 9 university hospitals that are like world renowned for what they do. I'm like, and I have a doctor that has Jewish friends. I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, as soon as something goes wrong with me, they're like, yeah, I'll just call my boys up and see who can fit you in. It was great. Like 2 weeks in getting whatever test I want. So it's great for me, but yeah.
No, see,
now that I have Kaiser, I really ought to have a thing on my little medical bracelet that's like, if you take me to a hospital, make sure it's a Kaiser one so I don't owe $50,000.
Right? That's very specific. You can't go somewhere else. I have a doctor. His name is Google. That's where we're at.
He's a little bit negative. He also a little bit of a hypochondriac.
Everything might be cancer.
I mean, yeah. Like technically, like they're not wrong, but also like I didn't need that at 4:00. Like I feel like Google's answers should be tempered by what time of the night you're asking. Because like at 3:00 in the morning, you can't be like it's cancer. You're like, I definitely have cancer at 3:00 in the morning, right? Whereas if it's like noon, they could be like, it could be, but like I doubt it. You're like, I don't have cancer. It's noon. It's 3:00 in the morning.
It should also be the number of times you've searched it because. Like the first time, it's probably not cancer. But it's like, but did you eat the cinnamon toast crunch bacon? So maybe.
Yeah. Like it's definitely heart disease, but probably not cancer. I feel like that's a fair gold vibes. Can I ask a question? Yeah, you can ask whatever you want. That's no problem.
My mom is something called, she's a patient advocate, which is like the Sherpa for the medical system. That's the best way I can describe it.
Does she get a cut? I wanted to ask. Does she get a cut of the deal or no? How does it work?
I don't really know how the billing goes because she's technically like it's through the insurance company or something. Anyway, so she like a friend of hers from high school, like there was like lesions on his liver, and then they're like, ooh, that's probably cancer from somewhere else. So they started checking them all out. They gave him a colonoscopy. And she's telling me this story, and she goes, yeah, so on the colonoscopy, they found, I said, is the tumor comically sized?
Yeah.
And she goes, what do you mean? I'm like, usually when they describe a tumor because this is America. We don't go, oh, it was a 2-inch tumor. It's like a tumor the size of a grapefruit or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel like because depending on the size of the object, it could be almost funny.
Yes.
You're like, it's a tumor in the shape of Scooby-Doo that's in your...
If it was a tumor that had the face of Jesus on it, you're like, that's a miracle.
It kind of ruins the like gravity of the situation, right?
Definitely. Well, can you imagine if there's someone's like, you had tumors, but it looked like 2 strawberries attached at the bottom, and you're like, that's a wild. Can I sell it? Did you guys take it? Like, do you guys have a market for it? Do I have to bid on it? Do I get preferential? Like, you know,
they were like, but it's
you
so
had
cute.
A tumor, but it has good timing. So,
I mean,
I was like, honestly, though, if it had the face of Jesus on it, they'll be like, yeah, we can't do that. It has to stay. And we now are worshiping you.
I mean, I feel like that's the only way we can progress, you know?
Yeah.
Is we need to bring back human deities and like superpowered God. I feel like that's the only way that we can move past the problems with religion. Like, no, I believe in Joe. He's at the front of the street and he's our protector. It's good. Just one random guy elevated to God level. Ronaldo or Messi?
Scott, if you're watching, go home.
Who's Scott?
None of that. Scott's my brother.
Oh,
he asks me that question constantly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I did do the TikTok thing where it's like, did Ronaldo score a goal on my birthday? And apparently he scored a goal on every day of the calendar year. Apparently. Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like that's an impressive thing. I don't feel like you get any extra points for it, though.
Like and then like leap day birthdays are just like, well, fine, fuck you guys too, I guess.
I mean, probably.
Unless it only makes sense. Good for him.
Dude, I'm hardcore American. I don't know what soccer is.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Like we talked about 2 episodes ago with Joey Edibles. Sports, what is it good for? Go check it out.
Yeah.
But we were talking about like where the whole like soccer football thing came from and the origin of it. Association football.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, hilariously is that it's just, even when you watch it in person, you're like, all right, this is just something to do. It's not a thing, you know. But like, it's the same. I know people who are like obsessed with sports teams, and I'm like, you know, you're not on the team, right? And they're like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, and you know, if they win or lose, they don't care about you still. And they're just like, he's like, they care. And I'm like, they really don't. I don't understand. It's
Wait a minute. I just thought about this. So we like football, right? And we play sports like our healthcare is free as well.
Yes, 100%. Because you're like, football, I need to bash someone's brains in. And you're like, yeah, that's fair.
That's right.
Put pads on it so it's okay, but it actually kind of makes it worse.
Yeah. Which only in America, putting extra padding makes it more dangerous. You're like, that's not. Yeah. I feel like that's a missed thing.
There's a movie, Leatherheads, that with George Clooney. You guys ever see that?
I thought it was a continuation of Leatherface, but apparently it's about old school football.
So it's football in the 20s. It's kind of a good. It's like a good like period comedy. And then they have John Krasinski like while he was on The Office. He's like a character on that.
Did he keep on looking at the camera and going, just making weird things? Yeah.
He's the heartthrob in that movie.
He's the heartthrob. I mean, listen, the fact even have you heard his story about him going to the UK to visit his wife, who's Emily Blunt, who's gorgeous and you know, and she played Mary Poppins, and you're like, yeah, that was a no-brainer, clearly. He was at customs and he's like, I'm here to see my wife. And they're like, who's your wife? He says, Emily Blunt. And the guy's like, you? Absolutely not. No way. You can't. And I'm like, that's a fair response. Because he will always be Jim from The Office. And you're like, with the, you know, and like, that was his whole thing. Or, you know,
that's like almost like Tony Hawk, where just no one recognizes him for some reason.
And he's like, what's your last name? Hawk. Your first name? Tony. Like the skateboarder? Yeah, that's me. And they're like, oh, okay. And you're like, that's your whole interaction with it. Like, this is a guy who changed skateboarding forever, changed the entire world. And the first non real sports person to have their own video game and make gajillions of dollars from it too. And you're like, And he's just like, oh, I'm just Tony Hawk. Like, that's it. All right.
One of my favorite roasts that I've seen one of my kids do, not on me, but like another kid, was one of them was wearing like these really baggy jeans, and the other one looks like, the other kid says, "You look like an unlockable character in Tony Hawk," and I was like, "Oh, that's good."
Such a good burn. Times are getting weird. Regardless, I don't know. I feel like there's nothing better than when people try and boss you around, and you're like, "No, I'm not doing that," and they're like, "But I need you to," and you're like, "No, that's too bad."
Okay. Wait. Okay. So I do a portion of this like story in my stand up.
Yeah.
But at that same restaurant, I've got lots of stories from this same place.
I mean, it felt like a career job. I'm just
so one day I was there, and it was like in between, like it was like right after the lunch rush,
right.
And the owners came in, and the owner decided to explain to me what she wanted. Like she was talking about like ordering and this, that, and the other thing about what she wanted me to do the rest of that day, all while she had her titties out.
What?
Yes. So she was breastfeeding. However, the baby was across the restaurant, and she was just
tits out.
Interesting.
Well, yeah, and they weren't. I always say this: it wasn't a good titty. Like if I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna do that, that's like what I'm gonna do. Like I deserve a non-busted titty is what I think.
I don't just like listen. That's a fair, yeah. If I'm gonna get a titty in the face, it should be decent to good at least.
Right.
Like we're talking like a 6 out of 10 and up.
Right.
Well, technically, it's for the baby, and I have nothing against like breastfeeding in public, but breastfeeding, not breastfed a few seconds ago.
Breast baby. Now here she was. Here's me. And I'm like, where do I look?
That's a good point.
What, like, I'm not making, is she realizing that I'm trying very hard not to make like any sort of visual contact with her?
Yeah. That's
like, turn around.
Ma'am, I understand that you are giving me instructions about opening, but my neck is going to snap. Can I look at it just for a second?
Yeah. I like so interestingly enough, I have a story that's kind of connected to this in a weird way. I was working at for a long time I was branch based as an advisor, and the counter in a bank is like chest level, right? And the problem is, like, as a guy who's tall, I always lean on there and I talk with the tellers, no problem. And the problem was one teller she was a nice girl. She was, nothing weird or anything, but she would always lean forward and like she would wear looser shirts. And I was like, okay, I don't know if it's a move or what she's trying to do, like if she's just like trying to get attention or what's happening. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try and be professional. Be like, hey, listen, I noticed that you kind of bend down forward. You may want to just cover up because your shirt comes open and, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. And she was like, oh my God, thank you for letting me know. I'm like, great. And then like, I got a look from a couple other people and I was like, I did the right thing. I don't think that's unreasonable, but at the same time, you're going like, I'm also a little bit of a pervert. And I'm like, hey, if you want to let him out, just go for it. That's fine too. It's a very confusing world we live in. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Seems like we should just destigmatize that whole thing. Maybe. I don't know.
Hey man, I'm all for it. But at the same time, don't use it to trick me because I'm very easily trickable when it comes to those things. It's not,
But also, like, don't give me instructions while you have them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably a good idea.
See, and this is the thing is everyone's like women are natural multitaskers, which I do agree with, but I'm like also sometimes it's better to do one thing at a time. I just, finish that job, put everything away and continue on to your next conversation. I feel like that's reasonable.
It is reasonable. By the way, she was like, also, can I have a latte?
Aren't you not supposed to? drink caffeine while you're breastfeeding, or do you have to pump it?
I mean, I don't listen. I don't know the rules. I don't know the rules. I was trying very hard not to pay attention. I was trying very hard not to. I was like, you can have whatever you want right now. Just please go away.
I mean, like, this is the thing too. Like, I've been in like change rooms after like working out and stuff, and there are guys who walk around with their wiener out, and I will be like, "Hey, man, can you put some pants on? Because I don't want to look at your wiener. Just can you do that?" And they're like, "Oh, what's the big deal? What? You're such a prude?" And I'm like, "Bro, put it away, or I'll put it away. This is one of your options. I don't give a shit." Right?
Okay.
So I can like
somewhere in the middle with that.
Well, like, I'm very much like, hey, it's a change room. You might see some tackle. Yeah. That's fine. I get
exactly.
It. But there's no reason for you to stand there with one leg on on the bench and you just grabbing your business, going, "Hey, so how you guys doing?" Be like, "Yeah, man, stop touching your dick while looking at me. I don't need that."
The other lesson from this episode: the Captain Morgan pose is never a good one.
I mean, unless you're trying to display your genitals, and then it's the perfect pose.
Would never do that. Women would never do that. You would never just put your leg up naked on the bench and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" Never.
I mean, I feel especially if like she started just flicking everything down there and just like, "So, you know, how you guys doing?" You're like, what's happening right now?
You're like,
please,
"Hey, how you guys doing?"
Yeah. Like, it's actually part of her show, and she's like, "Hey, what's up? Talking from down under." You're like, "Oh,
welcome to the Cuphead show." The last story before we go, I wanted to bring up. I used to work in a convenience store, and the managers also like your old wordplay, Chana, where they would like have the camera and watch you from home.
That's creepy.
We figured out that it's a camera, but there's no sound, and the managers demanded when they were there, it had to be the same playlist in the same order every single day.
Was it good songs though?
Hit and miss. But the problem is, like, that starts to grate on you after a while. Like, true. I knew it was time to go home when I heard "Out of Touch" by Hall & Oates. I'm like, great, quitting time.
You're like, and I'm out of time. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
I've had enough.
So we figured out that like where the plug-in was for the music. But you had to kind of disguise it like you were going up to the office, like, "Oh, I just need to put my bag down there," because there were no.
And then, boop.
And then just like very quickly reach behind, plug your phone in. Okay, we're good. And
awesome.
So we'd all take turns on like who was doing what, and it was really funny when people were coming in, being like, "All right, I'm coming in for a soda," and they're hearing like Iron Maiden or something blasting, and you're like, "Hey man, nothing beats having a Mountain Dew while listening to Number of the Beast." It's just
listen. Having good music at a workplace changes everything. Mm-hmm. I've walked into some, like, there's been times when Victoria was shopping and Aritzia has like for the winter months, they have these gigantic coats on display with normal size coats. And the thing is, their gigantic coats just look like coats that I used to wear because they're very large, but they're like 5-6XL. I'm like, that looks comfy to how big I used to be. So anyways, I walk in though, and I hear music.
Like a mobster's wife.
I mean, basically. And like I walk in and the music is like going well, and I'm just like, I would love working like this, because like I've always worked at a bank where I'm like, if it's music, it's Muzak, and it's horrible. It makes you want to murder. But I'm like, yeah, I would put headphones in and start listening to music. People are like, "What do you listen to?" I'm like, "None of your business." I'm like, I'm cool. I know music. Then I was no longer cool, and now everyone thinks I'm old.
I have a side note. Do they have Mountain Dew in Canada?
Yes.
Is it real Mountain Dew, or is it like the?
I think it's the badness in it? It's a milder version. Like, it doesn't glow as radiantly at night. But like there's a little bit of something where you're going, "Oh, that's not real. That's not real liquid. That's just, that is just a concoction, But yeah, no, that's the one thing. Yeah, you guys are losing red number 3, which is wild.
Are we though?
I mean, it's the same thing where like people save army rations for 40 years. They're like, "And now I'm gonna try it." You're like, "Why would you do that? There's no reason to do that." They're like, I saved all my red dye 3 and I'm going to sprinkle it on all my food. You're like, why would you? It is clearly not the thing you should do. It's go around the table and declare your vaccination status in the chat. Oh, God, what the fuck? That is a horrible, bro. Last shot I got was for tetanus, and it was 4 years ago, so I'm good. That's fine. That's it.
It's been a while for the tetanus, I think. They're good for 10 years, right?
5 to 10. I think it depends because they used to be 10, or no, it used to be 5, and then it went 10. But then now it might be 3 because nothing works anymore.
3.
It's Biden's America. Not even the vaccinations work.
Jesus Christ. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Generation Dan and how annoying conflicting instructions can be. Chana, thank you so much for coming on with us again.
It's been fun.
Yes.
Where can people find and follow you and all that good stuff?
So my name it's always like at Chana Carroll everywhere. So on Instagram, it's going to be Chana Carroll. On the TikTok, if we have it, I don't know. We'll see.
Awesome.
It's at Chana Carroll Comedy. But every platform, it's Chana. It's just my name. That way, it makes it easy. And I have a show coming up this week at Flappers on Tuesday at 7:30. And
Nice.
You're in it.
I'm in it. Yeah. So if you're at Flappers Tuesday night on the 21st, and for people listening to this on Friday, I'm sorry. Come check out Chana and I, and she is very graciously and very funnily running the thing. So
you got to change it and be like, listen, if you have plans on Tuesday, go cancel them. You're going to Flappers. That's what's happening, people. You're going to Flappers. And if you don't like it, lump it. Okay. You're going to do it whether you like it or not. It's going to happen.
If you don't like it, I'm sending you after everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be at your house.
Yeah.
Listen, I used to, so the last 2 years I've worked at haunted houses for October, and so if you add like some blood, makeup, and a little darkness, this murder face becomes like the face of nightmares. It's very enjoyable.
More darkness?
It's like a little, like shadows help me. You know how people are like, oh, it's shadowy, it's dangerous. Right here, it just gets worse. Yeah. So I kept on like scaring people, and then I'd be like, I'll see you later, I'll bring the chips. And then people are like, what did you say? I'm like, I'll be at your house. And they're like, not okay. And I'm like, just make sure you check under the bed later. And they're just like, absolutely not. And I'm like, I can barely fit under a bed right now, but I'll tell you, I would commit to it. And it would be like a turtle with a bed on its back. Like it's like the bed is tilting because I'm too big, and then I'm like, listen, I'll just stand up and the bed's going flying, but ta-da! I'm here. So yeah.
You can find me at Atlas Novak pretty much everywhere. Blue Sky, TikTok, all that, Instagram, all that good stuff.
But not Twitter.
Not Twitter, because I nuked that shit from orbit. Of course, like and subscribe to Generation Dan, also on all the social media platforms. You can also check out my other show, Nexus at Night, which is about the trading card game, Card Fight Vanguard. If that's not your bag, I understand. And go walk into the ocean. Dino, how about you?
That's a new one. I like that.
It's my new favorite. Like, I'm done with this. Is like, I'm just going to walk into the ocean. I'm done with this. Like,
what advice do you have for emotional eating? Fast. You need to fast. Because your emotional eating means your hormones are not being regulated. So the first way to combat something like that is to fast. You can start with just like an 8-hour fast or a 10-hour fast, or like even just stop eating at 6 p.m. and then don't eat the next day until noon. Do that, and it'll start to right your emotional the floppiness. It's a good big help. All right. I'm dealing with genetic marble everywhere. Well, no, that's a reasonable question. So when I first lost all the weight, Chana, I did a whole web series called Where Did the Rest of Me Go? And I just talked about like how my mindset changed and how I started to think about things, and then what I do for food, and then what I do for fasting and exercise and all that stuff. Because I was too fat to exercise. So like I could just like go for a walk, or I could just sit there and not eat. And I'm like, see, I'm super lazy, right? So like to the point where if the Olympics had a lazy competition, I wouldn't only get gold, but I would send someone else to go pick up the gold medal for me because I'm that kind of lazy, right?
Like I can't walk up those
Yeah.
stairs.
My maximum is one step. I do one step. If it's 2 stairs, there would be an escalator or a Sherpa to carry me. It's fine, regardless. But that's the thing is like, I found a way to lose all the weight until I could be physically like. If you check out my YouTube shorts and all other social media, I also did like I did a 1 minute plank this past week, which I'm like, there are a lot of thin people who can't do a 1 minute plank, just so you guys know.
It's way better than you with the Toto, where it's literally just you sitting on the toilet and you hear the rushing water of a bidet, and you're just
listen. Like, I can't go back to a non-fancy toilet now. Like it's done. Yeah. It's like I explain it to people when you move and you get central air conditioning for the first time. You can't go back to a window air conditioner.
Go back to the window.
Yeah. Right. So it's like the first time you pay to have somebody wash and clean the inside of your car, you're like, oh, I can't do that myself anymore. I'm stepping down. Can't do it.
Car wasn't what I thought you were going to end that with.
For the people saying mildly gross things about Chana in the chat, the least you could do is give her a follow and not be gross. That would be cool.
I mean, a few of them have been that she's freaking hot. So I'm like, if anything,
God, that makes me feel so like something, like you know.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with a free compliment. I found. And I'm like, listen, just don't be weird. You can say nice things. Like I've had people go, "Hey, you got really nice eyes." I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And they're like, "You still look like a murderer." I'm like, "That's okay. I could be a pretty-eyed murderer."
Would have just left it in nice eyes.
Yeah,
that's
like,
nice.
I remember him because he looked so murdery, but he had beautiful eyes. I'd be like, "Oh no, you caught me!"
I love the idea of like you're a serial killer, and they're like, "He had really nice eyes," like to the police, and they're like, "We having a Ted Bundy situation over here again, or what's the?"
I mean, basically, right?
Luigi is, you know,
he's gorgeous, and I found it hilarious that people are like, "Thank God he's at least bi, otherwise we're fucked." And I'm like, "That's fair, you know."
I didn't know this. How do you know this piece of information?
Oh, me and Luigi go back quite some time. We were hanging out on that specific date at that specific time, so I don't know what everyone else thinks, but he was with me.
Right?
I'm definitely an alibi for him, sir. I will go down in flames before I betray you.
Look,
I'm just happy that it was player 2 and not some guy named Mario. That would have been much worse, right? Like,
well, when your perp walk looks like a Balenciaga ad,
yeah,
what are you gonna do?
Listen, they had that whole show where they walked him from the helipad, which I'm like, number one, landing in a helipad, badass. Number 2, you were escorted. Like everyone else is wearing the same color except for him, fancy orange, looking good. And he was posing it down. I'm like, bro, that's the new Kanye line. I don't know what everyone else is talking about.
I was like, plus he had the fresh haircut.
Yeah, I think because the other prisoners are like, this is pretty cool, and we're like,
fucking fight the power, bro.
Stuff. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. And I think you can send him letters. Like I might
listen. I can't write a letter. I can barely read. So that's not. I'll send him a voice text. Or
I'm gonna go into my class
text. Yeah, I'm gonna use a note. Yeah, exactly.
20-something ninth graders and Dino.
Yeah, and be like, "You're awesome, dude. Keep it real." That's it'll be. Come on, brother. It's fine. He'll get it. It's fine.
Well, thanks everyone for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. We love you. Have a good one, everyone.
I mean, probably more than anyone else does. So it's fair. Later.